go. Here we go. Well, the button just came up that said end the live stream, so I'm assuming that means we've begun the live stream. I really wish you wouldn't pop that top in the middle of a beginning. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. That's about as far as I get. What is it on the West Coast? Probably 6. And then there's the mountain time, which is like 7 o'clock. I don't know. I think that's pretty much the times. And then once we get out of the U.S., I'm all messed up. I don't know what's going on at that point. So thank you for being here. Glad you are here. It is the live stream before 4th of July weekend. Just wanted to throw that out there for you. So I kind of feel like it's partly a 4th of July live stream. You should have accounted for that back in the area back there, but we'll let it slide, right?
Yeah.
So
I messed that up.
Yeah. So today, I didn't have like any big, huge topic for us today. What I wanted to do is just some Q&A. So I hope you brought some fun questions to ask, and we're gonna that's how we're gonna roll with it today. I know you had some great ideas, but I wanted to save them because they were pretty awesome. Now, before we get started, we do have a couple things going on here, a couple of announcements, if you will. You did a really cool video today, and it was actually one of my more favorite scapes of recent times. So that came out on the Small Scape. That's her channel, and it was an evolution of a scape.
It really was, yeah.
So last week you did something. You did something to your last tank, and this week I think it is dramatically improved.
Well, yeah, I started it last week. I knew I had to just get something in because the fish had to go in.
Yeah.
So I just started with a couple things that I really liked, left it, and that's sometimes what you have to do.
And that's what we had to do. So that went out today. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would check it out. It's definitely a really cool scape.
Thank you.
I would say, and I don't want to speak for you, but we on both Primetime Aquatics, and you do a lot of this stuff on the Small Scape, we try to do aquascapes when we're doing them that are not overwhelming for most people, where they can probably do it if they desire to do so. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
And like maintenance.
Yeah.
I have no interest in having a very high maintenance scape because we have so many tanks. And I have other things to do like sleep. So.
And yeah, if you did all those high maintenance scapes, they would look low maintenance after a while, and I would be the same way. So yeah, and then Monday, actually, wow, you've been really busy because Monday on Primetime Aquatics, the video we had on Monday was the 29-gallon rescape where we had that tank that was overrun.
It was overrun, but that is not my favorite scape because it's it's just one of those things. I'll be working on it. You're gonna come down there one of these days, and you'll be like, because I just have some stuff playing in the background now.
That stresses me out. I'm not going to lie. It stresses me out when a scape is done and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good.
It's not done.
And then I come down and the tank is destroyed. It's best I don't know about it. I just come down and be like, oh, that looks a little different. So hopefully I won't notice it too much.
You need to break down some tanks so I can steal the plants. That's kind of what I'm waiting on.
Yeah, that could happen eventually pretty soon here. Multiple Aquariums. Thank you so much for the super chat supporting my fellow Chicagoans.
All right.
Well, that's pretty cool. Ooh. Glad you're here. Are you going to be going to the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap on the 11th? Because that was the other thing I want to remind everybody. That's our next, I guess, public event sort of thing, where if you want to stop by, hang out, see some cool fish, there should be a decent amount for sale. The cool thing, at least in the Chicagoland area, is there haven't been swaps. This is the first swap that has taken place for public consumption in about a year and a half. So I'm assuming there have been a lot of people whose fish have been breeding, like some of mine, and I suspect there's going to be a pretty darn good selection at this swap. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to be back with all the fish people. So if you're in the Midwest, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, see how I do that? I name a bunch of places. We've had people come from Missouri, Kentucky, from all over the place. to go to the Greenwater Aquarius Society swaps and the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association, GCCA. I believe that one starts in September. So really excited to do that and to hang out with everybody. So that's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. We've got the members only video coming out tomorrow. And then Friday, I'm doing a species profile on one. It's a common fish, but it's something that I really enjoy. And you don't even know what it is.
No.
But I really like the fish, and I just feel like I want to talk about it. So that's what's going to happen on Friday.
Sweet.
It's going to be a pretty cool thing. So yeah, that's kind of what we've got going on. Now, the other thing that I wanted to just put it out there because it's going to motivate us even more, i.e. you.
Oh.
We're getting close to the end of doing live streams in this area. People are like, wait, doing live streams? No, we're done live streaming. Our live stream career is completely over. It was fun while it lasted, but no. We are going to be moving the live streams into the studio /shop / I don't know is that what you call it?
I call it a whole bunch of things. It's like a list of things.
It's kind of like the list of things we call people who are primetime members and all that. They get a bunch of different names because we can't settle on any one.
Yeah.
But I like to call it the studio. That is going to be a better place, I think, visually for what we're doing here. It's going to be a great place to do some of the aquascapes that you're working on for both Primetime Aquatics and especially for your channel, the Smallscape. We've got some work to do there, but I think we should be ready by the middle of July. Right, middle / third-ish week of July, we'll hopefully be moving in there, and the lighting should be better.
Everything should be better.
The audio should be better, and it should be a little bit cooler, so we're not boiling. So that's what's going on there. So excited for that. We've got a number of tank builds that are going to happen in the studio. And we are just waiting on the tanks, which hopefully will be here soon, but you've got a bunch of work to do. So at least on your channel, you'll probably be seeing a bunch of tank builds coming up. So should be exciting. I hope it's exciting. Pompeii Ranch, where is the swap? That's a great question. It is a mystery. It's a swap mystery. So the one on the 11th, July the 11th, it's a Sunday. And I believe it's from 10 to 1. I think that's the time. It is at Birdhaven in Joliet, Illinois. So Birdhaven, that in and of itself is a cool place because I haven't really walked around there much, but inside it looks nice. Don't they have some ponds and stuff?
They have ponds.
Like koi ponds, right?
Not just, I mean, it's a greenhouse, so you're talking some pretty sweet planting areas there.
Yeah.
And ponds. Fish.
Yeah, and so there'll be fish for sale and driftwood and plants. And what's pretty interesting about the Greenwater Swap is there's usually a very wide variety of stuff. So anything from cichlids to live bears to tetras and cory cats and all kinds of general community fish. And of course, like I said, all the plants, the wood, the rocks. There's something, I think there's even, or maybe that's the GCCA where there's a guy selling aquarium books.
No, that's the GCCA.
Okay.
Because I usually get some.
Yeah, that's right. That's where you're usually coming home with all the books. So, so that's where it's at. Joliet, Illinois, Birdhaven, on the 11th of July. All right, let's see here. M&C Aquatics. Is Jason finally getting a 500-gallon tank?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Well, that would be cool.
Right.
But the problem is the studio is on the second floor of our home. So. Yeah. I'm not so sure 4,500 to 5,000 gallon or 4,500 to 5,000 pounds is a great idea, especially where we're putting. It's not like there's some huge support beams under there, so I'm pretty sure it would make for an interesting video, right? Like, hey everybody, check out how I destroyed my home with a 500-gallon fish tank, and you would just, I can't even imagine what that would look like if a floor actually collapsed on the second floor, and 500 gallons of water wound up all over.
Probably go shooting through into the basement.
Oh man, that would be a disaster.
You'd have a quadruple stack in the basement.
And you know what would be the worst part about it is if that actually happened and I put out a video, I destroyed my home with a 500-gallon tank, it'd probably get like 600 views. So that would be the worst thing ever. So yeah, it'd just be my luck. Yeah. Sean, is having 2 filters in a tank a bad idea? And submerged sponge filter and a hang-on back. No, that's not a bad idea. So I did a video on is it possible to overfilter a fish tank? And in the scientific sense, it's not possible to overfilter a fish tank in the sense of, oh, I'm going to do something horrible. When you add more filtration than necessary, obviously it's going to cost a little bit more money. It's going to require a little bit more energy. But having more than one filter on a tank doesn't necessarily mean you've overfiltered something. So what I like to do in a tank that is, especially tanks that are 4 foot long or longer, I always like to have at least 2 separate filters on that tank, one on each side. So if I'm using a hang-on back filter, I generally use 2 smaller ones. And so let's just take an example, 75 gallon. So a 75 gallon, I would feel very comfortable putting a Seachem Tidal 110 or a Marineland Pro 475 or even a 450 or a 375. You could easily get away with one in most stocking options. But I would probably opt, for me personally, to put in maybe a couple Seachem Tidal 55s on that 75 and turn the flow down just a little bit. So that's for a couple reasons. One, I like to have that flow on both sides of the tank so I don't have any dead spots. And 2, if one filter goes down, if something breaks, the other one is still running, and so I'm not without a filter completely. In your situation, you've got a hang-on back and a sponge filter, and we do that a lot. So in one of our 75s, we have 4 125s, and even one of our 40 breeders that houses our bristlenose breeding tank. In all cases, so that's 4, 5, 6, at least 6 tanks off the top of my head, we have a hang-on back with a couple sponge filters. So more so because the hang-on back deals with the mechanical filtration aspects. But yeah, it's okay. And the cool thing is, if you start another tank, as many people often do, you already have a fully cycled filter or filter media from a healthy tank. So there are some advantages there. All right, let's see here. What you got?
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
I'm my bubbly friend.
Okay.
And couple other things. Whips World. Does that mean you're going? He left the address and everything like that. Are you going?
Cool. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you very much, sir. And what else? Oh, I saw Noelle. You got a Galaxy Koi Betta. Do you know what her kids named him?
What?
Peter Quill.
Peter
Star-Lord.
Quill. Wow. Okay.
Star-Lord.
I remember. I was just I'm aware of who Peter Quill is. Thank you very much.
You didn't. I was waiting.
Well, no, because I was thinking. I just saw a picture the other day when our kids were really young. When our youngest was maybe 8 or 9 years old, I coached their baseball team, and one of the things we allowed them to do is put a nickname on the back of their jersey. And our youngest son Eli picked Star-Lord, so that was his name on the back of his jersey. So we used to do that from time to time just for fun. Funny side story. I had a kid named Zach on my team one time, on my older boys' team. I said, "What do you want for your nickname?" He said, "Zach Attack." I don't know what happened. I don't know if I sent it to the shirt people misprinted, or they just didn't do what they were supposed to do. We get the shirts back. I'm handing them out to the team, and the one kid, it said Zach Attach on it. So we didn't have time to correct it before the first game. So for the first couple of games, he was like our best player, and he's walking around, he's pitching, he's got, he's like the stud number 3 hitter, and he's got Zach Attach on the back of his shirt.
Classic.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. It was good times, man. So Matthew does stuff. Hold on, I lost it. Does AquaClear 30 fit on a 55-gallon tank rim? I think it does, but just want to make sure. So I don't know. I've had AquaClear 30s in the past, but I don't remember ever putting it on a 55. And I don't have any right now. I don't know. That would be something where, if I were going to mess with it, I would probably run to the store, grab an AquaClear 30, don't assemble it, don't even get it wet, stick it on the back of the 55. Yeah, this works. Okay, I'm keeping it. No, it doesn't. Take it back. They'll take it. They'll let you return it. So, and even if you, just can find it cheaper somewhere else, return it, and they're like, okay, I'll just buy it cheaper. And at least it fits, because it stinks when you get these smaller filters and you're like, okay, it'll do the job based on what I need it to do because I'm doubling up, and all of a sudden it doesn't fit over the rim. You're like, are That's not going to work. I've had that happen before. It's very frustrating. All right, let's see here. I'm scrolling around. I'm going to go back to where it all began. Daryl's here. Hello, Daryl. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. And by the way, just as I always say, if you have a question, just leave the @Primetime Aquatics on the little thing so that we can see the questions a little bit easier. I see a lot about the temperatures. Yeah, I know on the West Coast, especially the Northwest, man, you guys have really been getting
hundreds,
knocked around. I didn't realize how warm it was. And at first I thought, well, they're not used to super warm temperatures in the upper Northwest. And, in a lot of parts, I'm like, well, how warm can it be? Then I saw it. Was it over 100 degrees?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in certain
that's
parts that happens, but they're...
That's not cool. And I got some people from Miami and Florida like, yeah, it's always warm here. When we were in Florida, we were in Fort Myers, and we had a place right on the beach, and it was interesting because, and we're not used to this, but everything just felt humid.
Yep.
Like even the sheets felt like they were almost like wet or something. It was very, it took a little while to get used to. I'm like, man, this is really crazy. It's like the ocean is right there on the pillow. Yeah. Why is my pillow wet? The ocean made it that way. But it wasn't in the ocean.
And the floor and the counters. And
then you drag the sand
handle, everything is just like humid.
Yeah. And it gets humid here in the Chicago area, but not anything like that. Maybe because we lack a cool ocean next to where we live.
Science Gal Aquatics.
Hey,
Carrie.
Carrie, how you doing? Hope to see you in a couple. So what is that? 6 weeks away from Aquashella, Chicago, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up soon. So we'll see you there. Hopefully, if you guys are going, let me know, because I'd love to hear how many people right here, right now, are planning to hit Chicago or Dallas in October, Halloween weekend. So Noelle says, hello, everyone. Catching a few minutes live before the teenagers gather for family Loki night.
Oh.
Yep. Cool. I'm sure it'll be a crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
Shelley says, happy 4th to everyone. Happy pre-4th to everybody.
Happy 4th.
Yep. Very cool. Whips World said the 20-gallon long turned out amazing that you did today.
Thank you very much.
I liked it quite a bit.
You can't go wrong when you got a really sweet looking rock.
The only problem with the setup now, and it's not your fault, is it's terrible. No, I'm kidding. Is the shadow cats. We've got, what have we got, 8 of them in there? And
we'll never know.
I don't know how you ever had fish, it's like there's not that many hiding spots. I mean, there's some in that tank now, but how do you go and basically set up a tank by adding a few pieces of wood, and all of them are not visible whatsoever? And I was like, oh man, what happened here? Did they jump out? Did they get eaten by, I don't know what? And I'm looking around the back of the tank, and they're all crammed in there, all happy. And
every once in a while, they send a runner out the front.
Hey, go find out what's going on out there. Are those big giants in front of the glass still out there? Because they're freaking me out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you managed to hide all the shadow cats and the clown plecos.
Well, you can see them pretty well in the center. And I knew when I was stacking the wood, I'm like, you know what? It's either them or me, and I chose to have them comfortable, and then I just got to get the old binoculars and find them.
She basically scaped a tank that had probably 25 fish in there. 20. And after the scape, we could only see 10 of them now for the rest of the
day.
Well, I guess the dwarf Gourami, he's in there too.
Yeah, Emmett comes out all the time.
Gnarly dwarf Gourami with the messed up fin, but
he's such a sweet boy.
Is. Yep.
He's a true centerpiece special fish.
He is a centerpiece special fish. Michael says, why would I have nitrate spikes every with BO ammonia or nitrate? It's been going on for 2 weeks. No new fish or anything. So hold on. Why would I have nitrate spikes?
The old spell check.
Maybe ask that question again, because I don't know what's going on. So nitrite spike with every...
With no ammonia? No ammonia?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Well, so there's different microbes that break down ammonia and nitrite. So it could be a couple things. There's a potential there that the microbes that convert the nitrite to nitrate are somehow being damaged. Maybe there's a change in pH. So just double check a couple things. Double check your KH, which is your buffering capacity of your water, and just make sure that's been stable. And then also check your pH and make sure it's not doing one of these things, because if it is, that can harm your beneficial bacteria, both your ammonia oxidizers and your nitrite oxidizers. So just make sure that you're not having any issues there, because that's one of the only things, especially if you haven't added any fish or anything new, your filtration's fine. So, and I'm assuming there's nothing in your tap water too. That's the other thing.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Hulkstun 88. How many platies in a 29 gallon?
How many platies in a 29? Well, I'll tell you how many I'd start with, and then I would just watch them do what platies do, and that's make little platies. I got little platies swimming all over the place. I'd start with about 6. I'd go 2 males, 4 females, maybe a few more females than that, 4 or 5, couple males, and just let them breed. I think that's one of the funnest things about fish keeping. I mean, yeah, you could put in 12 or 15 in a 29, but then when they start breeding, it just crowds up a little bit earlier. So that's what I would do. And we saw some really cool platies when we got the local fish store the other day, but they were undergoing their treatment process and we couldn't get them. But if they hadn't been, those platies would have been mine. I like platies. One of those weird people.
You see the question from Whip's World?
I have seen it now, yes. It says, Jason, with all your money-saving tips, have you ever discussed where you go to find the driftwood you use? Have I ever discussed where I go?
Well, we had that haul from 2 years ago, the Aquashella in Chicago, the group that was there.
Yeah.
We got a decent amount from them.
A lot. I mean, we had enough.
Did you take a picture of it?
Yeah, we don't buy a ton of driftwood because, well, lately we've bought more, but we had a massive stash from that Aquashella. We filled up the back of my truck with rocks and driftwood and just kept picking from there. And now lately, that one is not something where I tend to exercise a bunch of money-saving tips. Obviously, the cheapest way to go is to find it in nature, but you have to make sure that it is properly dried and you're not bringing in microbes. So that's one of the things where I tend not to do the money-saving thing with the driftwood. I want to buy that from a store and just make sure that it's been properly dried. And then of course, I mean, you can boil it and stuff and do the hydrogen peroxide thing. But yeah, driftwood is one of those things where it is costly and we just kind of deal with it.
And on Amazon, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, Amazon can be cheaper.
Have to find like specific pieces.
Yeah, that's the downside. So Amazon can be cheaper, but you also have to be adventurous and be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to buy this medium-sized piece of driftwood, and this is a random picture, and hope they send me something good. Sometimes I've gotten really good stuff. Sometimes I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this basically block of, I don't know, 2 feet long and basically 1 inch thick and 1 inch wide? It's just solid slab of wood. It looks like a tree trunk or something, like a tree slab, and there's no good looking thing about it. So
wow,
it happens. But sometimes it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dan says, tips on shrimp keeping for a beginner. By the way, thanks for all your videos. You helped me get my first koi betta, and it's doing very well. Well, that's awesome. So I'm glad the betta's doing well. Tip number 1 is don't put the shrimp with the betta. So you could wind up having very expensive betta food. Tip number 2 is it depends on your water parameters. If you are around neutral and you've got water that is moderately hard or more, you're probably looking at the Neocaridina shrimp. So that would mean your cherry shrimp, your blue dream, your pumpkin shrimp, your black rose. There's yellows. What else? There's a variety of different colors. Those tend to do better at those water parameters, and I think they're relatively easy to keep. I had the best luck with Neocaridina, with any shrimp, putting them in a somewhat established tank. Maybe you've got some Java moss in there. Maybe you've got some, well, back in the day, the moss balls were fine if they were not potentially infected with zebra mussels. I don't know what's going on with that lately, if they've started bringing those back into the country or not.
Because I need to do moss ball projects.
Yeah, everybody does. I mean, that's what, it's like the computer chip shortage for cars. Moss ball shortage, it's on the same level. It is. Except when they come back, the moss balls are probably going to be like $25 a piece, because it's 2021 and everything costs more.
They'll market them somehow. You know, like pet mothballs.
Secret mothballs.
Or, you know, rare mothballs.
Yeah. So anyway, with the shrimp, that's my suggestions. Start out with a half a dozen in a tank that is decently well established and without fish in it. I mean, so you've got a cycle tank going on. And it's not too bad. Whips World, does it take a membership? I'm assuming you are asking about the swap on the 11th. No, the cool thing about the green water ones is you don't have to be a member, and they're not even charging an entry fee for the buyers. So people who want to come in.
Except for you, Whip.
Yeah, we'll tell them.
You actually have to bring in a pizza.
Yeah, subsidize the whole thing. So, no, they're...
subsidize the whole thing.
Whips World's here.
Pay up.
Yeah, it was fine. So, no, you just come on in and there's no fee or anything. It's pretty cool. And even the GCCA one is really cheap. I think it's maybe, it's just speaking off of memory here, so don't blame me if it's a couple dollars more, but it's something like $5 to get in, and kids are free. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right, let's see here. T-Rock, do you think I can put 2 angelfish in a 29-gallon with 10 neon tetras, a honey gourami, 2 cory cats, 2 Bolivian rams, and 6 coolie loaches? Long-term, probably not. Just because of the angelfish. So the angelfish are going to outgrow that 29. I know I've got some right now in a 40 breeder, and they are at a point where, and I keep saying this, they're pretty close to outgrowing that tank. I think they would enjoy something a little bit taller. When the angelfish get full grown, they might decide, you know what, those neons, I might be able to fit them in my mouth if I try really hard. Sometimes they will eat smaller fish. Sometimes they leave them alone. It just depends. The rest of it is probably okay. The 2 Bolivian rams, the only thing to consider is, and I always say this, you get 2 females, probably going to work out okay. And the females don't look that different from the males, in my opinion. You get 2 males, they could potentially spar a little bit for space. Although we had a group of 5 or 6 in a 29 for a while, and they did okay together. If you get a pair, then all bets are off, and now they could start potentially pushing fish all over the tank, protecting their fry. So if this were my setup in a 29-gallon, and I always speak based on what's going to give us the least amount of problems. It's possible the stuff could work, and it's possible it could work for a long time, with the exception of the angelfish would eventually have to move. But if you remove the angels and you did the 10 neon tetras, the honey gourami, the 2 cory cats, the 2 Bolivian rams, 6 coolies, the 2 Bolivian rams then at that point is the thing that might give you some problems later. Possibly instead of the 2 angelfish, maybe what I would do is up the cory cat game a little bit. You got a lot of bottom feeders there though with 6 coolies. Maybe you add a couple more cory cats. They do like to be in groups. They feel more comfortable that way. So that's something to consider, maybe. You got anything over there?
I do. Let's see. I just lost it. Hold on here. I have my Superscaping friend here. Dave,
Superscape.
Yeah, Dave from Iowa. He's my Superscaper friend. Okay.
Single serving friend? What, hold on. Don't say anything.
Oh, okay.
What movie is that from? You are by far the most interesting single serving friend I have ever met. Let's see who gets that movie quote. All right, so your Superscaper friend, what's going on?
Yeah. Hold on here, Dave from Iowa. I'm trying to find your comment. I just totally lost it. Oh, he said, I started with 11 Platies in a 20-gallon. Now I have 60. That's about it.
That happens. Yep,
yeah.
That absolutely happens. Live bearers will do that to you for sure. All right, let's see here. KCB. I might be getting some sort of gourami for a new 5-gallon. I watched your species highlight today. For a 5-gallon. 5-gallon might be a little tight for, I'm trying to think of the smallest gourami that's, well, okay, well, hold on. Maybe you're talking about the sparkling gourami. Okay, yeah. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, that might be a little bit small for like even a dwarf gourami or
honey gourami.
Yeah, the sparkling gouramis. A sparkling gourami might work. Just be careful because if you try to go more than one in that size tank, they will sometimes be mean to one another. They'll be untoward.
Yeah, they'll be not so neighborly.
Yeah. K-Stew, hey fish gang, what's up?
What's up?
What would be a good staple food for Bolivian rams? Asked just another fish keeper. Well, I can tell you what
It's a cool name.
I know. I can tell you what we feed ours, and that is a combination of sometimes we'll have frozen brine shrimp. Sometimes we've got some frozen bloodworms. We feed all of our fish Northfin. So we've got Northfin community flakes, Northfin cichlid flakes. We've got the smaller, I want to say they're maybe 2 millimeter or 1 millimeter pellets. The community pellets are all good stuff. So I like all of those things for feeding Bolivian Rams. And Noelle said she's got some Hikari sinking wafers, flakes, and community. Oh yeah, Rapashi is good too. Lots of fish like that. They go crazy. If you haven't fed your fish Rapashi, like the Community Plus stuff is pretty good. It's basically a gel food. It's really easy to make. Cut it up into little squares, chuck it in. Things like plecos and cory cats, like a lot of the bottom feeders, really like that stuff. But I have cichlids that munch on it. It's kind of messy, so it does mess up the water a little bit, but it's not too bad. Man, I really scrolled all the way up here.
Yeah, what the heck, man?
I don't know what happened. It's because I'm bad at the whole thing of...
Oh, Richard lost one of his kissing gouramis last night.
I'm sorry, that stinks. That's an old school fish, too. Kissing gouramis.
That's in the way back.
I haven't seen those in a little while. Yeah, I haven't had them in a very long time. They're surprisingly, and I don't know how yours were, but they are surprisingly aggressive if they're not kept in the right way. I made up a new word.
Sure.
That's right. That's why I live stream, because of my words, like keeped. So, but sorry to hear that. Not cool.
No.
All right, let's see here. Steve asks, best way to deal with a fish in cycle. Been dealing with 2 to 4 parts per million ammonia, almost no nitrite, and 0 nitrate, 30 to 50% water changes every other day, and been dosing with prime. So, I did a video about how to instantly cycle a tank, and the two mechanisms that we use, and one of them may not be an option for you, but we generally do two things when we are starting a new tank. Thing number one is we try to transfer some used filter media, some fully cycled used filter media from one of our tanks into the new one. If you don't personally have that, if you've got a friend or a pet shop that you really trust and you know there hasn't been any disease in that tank for at least a month or two, you could ask for some used filter media. The second thing that we do is we add Fritzzyme 7. Now in your case, because you've already got fish in there and the concentrations are pretty high, the Fritz Turbo Start would be the way to go, because it is a more concentrated amount of live beneficial bacteria, and that is the key. So a lot of times people ask, hey, I'm adding this stuff that says it's supposed to cycle my tank faster. And what I always say is, well, it's probably not going to work. In fact, I have never come across a product that claims to cycle a tank faster or do anything useful for ammonia in terms of cycling unless it contains live nitrifying bacteria. So like I said, we use the Fritzzyme 7 when we're starting a tank. Fritzzyme Turbo Start would be the thing to go to in this particular case. That will add the beneficial bacteria, but you're still going to have to do those water changes. So you're doing the right thing by doing the water changes. The other thing that you can consider is reducing the amount of feeding, and keep an eye on their overall health, because when fish experience ammonia levels or nitrite that high, sometimes that leaves their immune system compromised due to the stress, and then they start picking up things like ick or bacterial infections. So you're going to want to watch that as well. What you got?
Clint Walker's in the house. What's up? Say hi to Clint.
What's up, Clint?
What's up, Clint?
How you
Okay.
doing? Well, I was confused. I thought I saw Primetime Aquatics as Part-Time
It's
Aquatics.
Part-Time Aquatics.
I was like, wait, someone's leaving a message?
From us?
From us?
Did we do it in the past?
That's right. And now it's fast forwarded. What you got?
Okay. Connor Stamos. That's a question here. Okay. I have a 20-gallon long, nice, with a single GBR set at 82 degrees. And aside from cardinal tetras, are there any other fish that will be able to go in with it?
Okay, hold on. So I was zoning out. You said a German blue ram, 82 degrees, cardinal tetras with one German blue ram. And I missed the size tank.
20-gallon long.
20-gallon long with one German blue ram and cardinal tetras at 82. The issue is matching the size of the tank and also the temperature, right? You've got that. You've done. There's nothing wrong with what you've done. It's a good setup. I think it's probably a very enjoyable thing to watch. Mm-hmm. What I'm going through my brain is, okay, what's going to handle the 82 degrees? I'm assuming most likely if you're being successful with the German Blue Ram and the Cardinals, most likely you're somewhere around neutral with water that's probably on the softer side. I'm just making those assumptions. I could be wrong. You could potentially do something like a super red bristlenose. Might be pretty cool. Do a little bit of research. I don't have the species names off the top of my head, but there are some cory cats that really like that temperature right around 80 to 82 that would also do well, but I don't have the species names off the top of my head that could also work. In terms of fish that are free swimming in a 20 long, I don't know if anything comes to my brain directly other and you're taking a real chance here, but a betta could potentially work if the German Blue Ram will accept it. And you're, like I said, you'd have to have a backup plan for that, but the temperature is fine. Your water parameters are most likely okay. I'd probably do a female rather than a male if you wanted to go that, but you got to have a backup plan for that just in case the German Blue Ram's like, hey, I'm sorry, this is my tank. There's only room for one centerpiece fish and you ain't it. So out you go. So yeah. All right, let's see here. M&C, oh my gosh, everything just jumped. Oh, we got I'm behind. Let me.
Oh, now at least I saw it jump. Like that's why you're always saying it jumps.
Oh, well, yeah, because it was like the chat just got sick and tired of me, like not keeping up with stuff. So hold on, I wanted to answer, and then we'll scroll down here because M&C Aquatics. I just don't get it. Why there are channels that continues to say you got to have at least 4 FX6 on a tank, or you can't have Africans in a 125 or a 240. I use hang on back sponge filters in water. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. And I've made this argument a million times, and I will make it to the day I die. The vast majority of fish tanks are tremendously overfiltered when it comes to biological filtration, housing microbes that accomplish the nitrification process. As long as you've got water movement and sufficient surface area in your tank, most likely you will establish those beneficial bacteria. Now, I'm not saying go out and fully stock a cichlid tank in a 125 and have a little tiny filter on there because that could potentially run into problems. The only reason, the argument for having additional filters in a 125 is just for water flow, because if you've got, let's just say a 125, you have an overstocked peacock cichlid tank or an Mbuna tank, if you only have one filter on that tank, what's going to wind up happening, no matter where you place it, whether it's in the center or on one end, you're going to have dead spots in that tank, which could then lead to algae growth, and that still water just it can smell a little bit. So the idea is, okay, I might add more than one filter, but that's really for mechanical filtration for the most part at that point, and just making sure that you're pulling, if cichlids are digging and they're stirring stuff up, it's pulling that the detritus and stuff out of the water. But you don't need all that stuff for the biological side. You don't. So you can get by perfectly fine. I've done fish room tours where people have big tanks, 180s. They've got heavily stocked cichlid tanks, and the only thing they have in their fish room are sponge filters. That's it. So they'll put 2 or 3 sponge filters in these big 180s, heavily stocked, never a problem. So, all right, let's get to these super chats I've been missing. Fish fan, 20 gallon long, like the name. Thank you for all the wisdom which you share. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel and for hanging out with us. Let's see here. Logic, dat boy just picked up a bamboo shrimp. Any tips I should know? I don't know. I'm not really a huge bamboo shrimp. Are those the ones we got?
Yeah. I call them
those are the ones.
Bamboo, but I call them the same.
They're not, though.
I know they're not.
Yeah, so the bamboo shrimp, we have those in our shrimp tank. They like the filter feed, if I'm thinking of the right ones. And like I said, I'm not a shrimp expert, but I think those are the ones we have in our 40. So they're just going to probably hang out by, like for us, we've got the sponge filters, and they hang out on the air line above the sponge filter pretty much all the time. And they're just like, they just kind of do that sort of thing and filter feed. So nothing special. All right, let's see. Kylan, do marbled cat sharks make great fish for aquariums, and what is their diet, and what filter should I use? Can you look up I just want to see that. So the common name, marbled cat shark.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that common name, but maybe if I see it, I could provide more information. Marbled cat shark. Miss Zumi, is it bad to leave the tank light on 24/7? Yes, humidity in Florida sucks. Yeah. Yeah, probably. So if you're leaving it on full blast, you will eventually get some algae issues, and it's stressful for the fish. You can always tell. Like I can tell when we do tank maintenance, and the boys are like, because we've got all of our lights on timers, and they will go down there in the middle of the day when the lights are usually off, and so they'll switch all the timers to just like the override, so that they're just on. All the lights are on, and every once in a while, / probably once a week, somebody forgets to turn off and put them back on timer, and so they've been on all day, and then they've been on all night, and I come back down in the morning, and you just tell they're trying to sleep, but they can't, so they're inactive. They don't know what time of day it is. So I generally try my very, very best not to have that happen. Our lights are on split. I think it's 2.5 hours in the morning, and then 5.5 or 6.5 hours. It's 6.5 hours at night, just because that's when we're feeding, that's when we're home, that's when we're enjoying them. So that's what I do. If I were to leave my lights on 24/7, the tanks would be an absolute nightmare. They would be covered in algae. Green hair algae would be everywhere. So that can happen after a while.
I believe the marble cat shark is also known as the coral cat shark.
Okay, let me see this bad boy. What size is this thing?
It's not freshwater. I don't think it's freshwater.
Oh.
I don't know. I just started looking. You can never look at the very first description, because frequently it's wrong.
I haven't heard of those. That's why, at least not by that name. So that's why I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. They can get pretty big.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I just have a really big tank. Let's see here. How do you take, Pompeii Ranch, how do you take infertile eggs out of a tank? They stick like glue from my parrotfish. If that happens, one, if you've got any kind of pleco in there, they're just going to eat them. Two, you could remove so sometimes I'll have fish. I've done this with our Midas cichlids. I did this with our Geophagus a lot, where they would lay the eggs and I wanted to tumble them. And so the way I got rid of those, or got them released from the surface, is I had a metal spatula, and I would go in there and very gently, because I wanted to keep the eggs, just kind of scrape them off, and I'd suck them up with a turkey baster, and then I would put them in the egg tumbler. Now in this case, you're saying that the eggs are infertile, so you don't really have to be all that gentle. You can just take some kind of a flat thing, like I said, I use a spatula. You could probably use just like a spoon, like a tablespoon. Go in there and scrape them off. If you want to suck them up with a turkey baster, great. If not, then they'll just stay in the tank for a while. But if it's a large enough tank, it's probably not going to do anything to the water or anything like that. All right, let's see here. I'm scrolling on down. Let's see. Fire formed wind. Best tips for breeding bristlenose plecos. My gold ones just had normal color. So breeding bristlenose, for me, that was one of the first fish that I think, well, I mean, besides guppies and stuff that just breed, but that was one of the first fish that bred for me back in the day. And there wasn't really much to do. So what I tend to do with the bristlenose plecos for breeding is I get the terracotta watering stakes. So they're actually for plants. They're tapered at one end. And I've got a video on like fish caves. If you look at that video, fish caves, it'll show you what I'm talking about. But these watering stakes, they're tapered at one end. And for bristlenose plecos especially, the males have a much easier time. They have to kind of block the female in the cave and keep her in there so that she doesn't leave. And those make it really easy for that to happen. It also makes it really easy for them to protect the eggs, because they basically wedge those eggs in themselves into that tapered end. So I found those to be really, really useful. And then that's just a matter of waiting. Now I will say, what can happen is if your bristlenose plecos reach critical mass in a tank, and for that, what that means for us is if I'm breeding them in a 20 gallon and they have a set of fry of like somewhere between 20 and 30 fry, they might have one more group hatch out, but after that they stop. And in a 40 gallon, it might be an additional group, but it gets to this critical mass inside the tank, and there starts to get too many males, and sometimes I'll see the eggs knocked out. So that can happen. So I would say just watch out for that. But other than that, they're pretty easy. All right, scrolling on down. Man, oh man, I am all behind. Ricky, thank you so much for the super chat. Man, I was so stoked to catch the live stream. 10 minutes before it starts, she says she wants to go on a dinner. Gonna eat fast in the boys' room at the moment. Hey, you know what? Enjoy it.
Yeah, go on a date.
You can watch the replay. That's funny. It's like, I don't feel good. John, thank you so much for the sticker, John. Appreciate it. Hey, Screaming Kitty. Thank you. It's the Screaming Kitty. Hiya, Screaming Kitty. Austin, thank you so much for the super chat. Just want to say I love your content. As a young biologist, I think you do an excellent job with SciComm, and I love to see it. Keep it up. Well, thank you. That's pretty cool. I'm glad you're enjoying the life sciences. It's something I've enjoyed for a long time, and it's cool because for people who like science, fish keeping and science, it really does go together quite well. So it's pretty awesome. All right, scrolling on down. Regina, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, J&J. I guess that's partially you, too. Have you ever kept yellowfin white clouds? I got 20 for my water garden pond. Still haven't put them in there because I'll never see them. Yellowfin white. So I haven't done the yellowfin white clouds. We've done the golds and the standards and the longfin. I think we have longfins in the pond. Are they longfin golds or are they longfin standards? I think that might be longfin standards. So we've done all those, but the yellow fins I'm not familiar with. So, but I bet they look pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you'll get
put them in the pond.
More.
Yeah, that's the thing, Regina. Just I know it's gonna stink because these are really great. I just spent money on them, and I'm gonna stick them in a pond. You'll see like the little tops of them. But ours are already. We've had that pond up for maybe a month, slightly longer, and they're already breeding. I see little baby white clouds in there, so it'll be worth it. Because then what's cool about that is, at the end, you scoop them all out. You're like, I started with 20. Now I've got 100. Ho, ho, ho. It'll be awesome.
All right, here's a funny question.
All right,
from Richard. Do you have a 0 to hero pick for a fish that colors up more than any other after taking it from the shop? Phoenix, Rasbora, Bolivian Ram, something that really gives you a bang for your buck.
After taking it, so that's a great question. Fish that really color up after taking them home. I have found that a lot of fish will do that, especially if you take them from a lighter substrate into a darker one with dark gravel, dark background. A lot of fish tend to really color up when that happens. Obviously, a lot of the cichlids, especially the African cichlid, the peacock cichlids, but that's not necessarily an instant gratification thing. That's one of those things where, I bought it at 2.5 or 3 inches. It was just, the male was just starting to show a little bit of color, maybe a little bit of blue or yellow or something or red. And then you wait a couple months and they get magnificent colors. I would say the fish that surprised me the most, I got a long time ago a Lethrinops intermedius. It was a large peacock / hap sort of looking cichlid. And at the time, I want to say it was about 3 inches. And it really hadn't shown any color yet. But that was one of the most magnificent fish when it was full grown and it was large and in charge and in charge of that tank. It got to be about 7 inches or so. And the colors, it's hard to even explain the colors because it was kind of like this iridescent gold with some blue and some red on the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin got really long. So that was pretty cool. Most Geophagus are very rewarding if you let them get to size. A lot of times when they're smaller, you just see hints. You see hints of this is going to be a cool fish. Like young Geophagus weinmilleri, Cernamensis, Altifrons. The Geophagus Altifrons that we have in our tank, when we first bought him, he wasn't very colorful. You could see he was getting ready to color up, but the top host is another one. When they're young, they don't look particularly colorful, but when they get older, they're really awesome. Now, in terms of fish that change from the time you buy them until, and then you get them home right away, I don't know. Maybe the Bolivian Ram would be one if it's close to full grown. When it gets comfortable, it shows a lot of iridescence too. Yeah, but most of my stuff is cichlids, and I have to wait. Right now, the fish that we have that are becoming increasingly more impressive are the Vieja, Synspilum, that we have on the 125 with the electric blue Acara. I got a group of 10 of them, and when I got them, they were very small, maybe probably about 2 inches or so, 1.5, 2 inches. And my buddy I got them from, he had an adult group, so I knew what I was getting into and how much color they're going to show. But right now, they're starting to get all the red, and they're starting to get the blue, and they're really showing their colors. The other one is it's another Vieja. It's Mascahiris or Argentia. So the Argentia, we've got 2 of them, and they are looking basically somewhat silvery right now. But when they get older, they're going to look amazing. It's going to be cool.
All right, here's a question.
All right.
This is from Matthew Does Stuff. How's the frog doing? Did you find it? Remember the frog?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this was really funny. That day, was it the next morning?
The next day,
That's right, the next morning. I was eating lunch. My sister was over, and she actually found him and caught him like that. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think he had done too much damage at that point. And now he's gone to like a real pond. Yep. So he's living like Larry right now.
We hope. Yeah, he got to go to the full-size pond in the back area back there. Not our pond, but it's more of a community pond thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, so.
We did find him. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that we actually found that fish frog. You know, fish, frog, whatever. I'm surprised we found that frog because it wasn't, I mean, it was pretty small.
It was pretty small.
It was just getting rid of its tail. So. Let's see here. Dominique, stocking ideas for a 29-gallon low-tech planted tank with low to mid-flowing current. 29-gallon, huh? Well, we just did one. Basically, that would be the tank that we just did on Monday. We threw in, I don't know how many brilliant green raspberries. I never actually counted them. In the video, I said I thought I was getting about 10. I walked by the tank. I looked. And they had decorations and stuff in there. And I'm looking because you always inspect. When you go to the fish store and you think you want a fish, I usually stand there for a while. I'm like, okay, they look healthy. There's no ick. There's no clamp fins. There's nobody swimming funny. I want those brilliant green raspberries, and then I moved on. When the guy asked me, he's like, how many do you want? I'm like, just give them all to me. Because raspberries, generally speaking, they like to be in groups. I get them home. I got 2 bags. Like, I don't know. He might have pulled them from another tank. Like I just said, give me all your brilliant. That's probably what happened.
Do you think he did?
Now that I'm thinking about it, I said, give me all of your brilliant green raspberries.
He's like, all right.
I think I might have missed a tank because I come home. I've got 2 bags. I'm like, what is this other bag? It was more of them. I'm like, oh my gosh. So wow. I think we've got 12 or 15 at least, maybe more. And so the point is, with the 29-gallon, we stocked it full of brilliant green raspberries. We had the Sunset Thick Lip Gourami, which I haven't had. I love that fish. It's got this really cool dorsal fin. And then we had 2 adult albino cory cats. It's actually a pair. They're leaving eggs. In that video, there's eggs all over the glass. There's eggs on the leaves. So there's those. And then we put in a blue phantom pleco. And I think that's it for that 29. So we gave them a little bit of space. But there's a lot of options when it comes to stocking 29s with a low-tech, low-flow. Just about any type of raspberry. Get them in a big group. That will be fun. When I say big group in a 29, as long as they're... Most raspberries are... Probably the brilliant greens are some of the larger ones out there. So if you're getting raspberries, you could easily do 12 or so, do a dozen. They really show off their personalities. You could do in a 29 like that, maybe 10 pygmy cory cats would be cool. You could do a half a dozen regular cory cats, you know, if you're looking for your cleanup crew, maybe throw, and I'm not saying put all these in the tank together. So pick a cory cat type, maybe half a dozen or so, unless they're the pygmies, then you can easily go 10 because they're really tiny. Do some kind of a algae eater. I like to throw in a bristlenose, maybe a super red, or if you like the long fins, like the longfin albinos or the calicos are pretty awesome. Need a centerpiece fish, so the smaller gouramis like the dwarfs or like that Sunset thick lip gourami was pretty cool. You could do maybe a Bolivian ram. You could look at a pistos if you have them in your area. What else? I wanted to do in that tank, I wanted to do hatchet fish. I saw them and I was going to get them and then I forgot. It's probably better off because we got so many stinking brilliant green rasboras. It would have been a little cramped if I would have gotten the half a dozen hatchet fish that I wanted to get in there. So, yeah, there's a lot of options. Frank asks, can electric blue acaras mix with cories and 2 mollies in a 40 breeder? Yeah, for sure. You probably won't have any molly babies if you care about that. So if you don't care about having mollies, molly fry, that is, certainly you could do that. Again, that's one of those things where, now I had a group in a 40 breeder and then I put them in the 125. Probably in a 40 breeder, you'd be best, just keep one as your centerpiece fish. Again, it's the simplest thing to do to minimize the risk of ever having either a breeding pair or 2 males in a tank like that. So, yeah. All right, let's see.
This is a good question.
All right.
All right, this is from, let's see here. Oh, I just lost it. Okay. And I lost it again. Oh, geez. Oh, all right, this is from Don Xavier. Hi, Don from the Philippines. Hi. What is the most dirtiest fish relative to its size?
Dirtiest fish relative to its size.
I'd say Pea Puffer.
Well, Pea Puffer because of if you're feeding it live snails. Yeah. Right, so your Pea Puffer now is eating live baby brine like it's going out of style because it loves it. So it's going to be less dirty. So the Pea Puffer is really about its diet. I would say for me, the bristlenose pleco can be a very hungry fish. It can have a big appetite and it makes a fair amount of waste. But what I always say is with the bristlenose plecos, I'm willing to accept the waste production because it's doing other things that I find important in the ecosystem, and that is taking care of algae on the glass. We don't do a lot of algae scraping in our fish room, and it's because most of our tanks have bristlenose plecos, and they deal with that. They're taking care of the food that falls to the bottom right away. And yeah, they're going to obviously convert that to waste, but it's easier for me to gravel vac a little bit of waste out of a tank than sit there with an algae scraper. But yeah, those are pretty messy. Did we do a video about messy fish? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. So we just did one like a few weeks ago. I don't remember how many fish we mentioned, but there was probably at least 6 or 7 that were on the messier side.
Sloppy pigpen fish.
Yep. But those are definitely a couple that come to mind. All right, Philippians 4:13.
Great verse.
How can I maintain a tank at 70 degrees? Bottle ice water works only for about an hour. Heat wave happening here. Lost 5 fish already. Rosy minnows. I'm sorry that's happening. There's no easy way. I wish I could give you like, oh, here's the best way to do it. It's gonna be super fine and it's not gonna cost you any time. The bottle ice water works. It's one of the least labor intensive ways to do it. Obviously, water changes will help. I mean, short of a chiller, right? I mean, yes, there are chillers out there that can certainly accomplish that, but right now, this is hopefully a temporary thing, and nobody's looking to spend hundreds of dollars on an aquarium chiller. So I wish I had better news for you in terms of how to keep it cooler, but the bottled ice water, you just drop, you freeze it, you drop it in, I'm sure that's what you're doing, and then cooler water changes, but you just have to be careful that you're not constantly going from 80 down to 70, 80 to 70, 80 to 70. And that's another thing is when we temperature shock our fish, just trying to keep it down. So, but I'm sorry that's happening. I know it's tough, but there's not a good way, an easy way to do that. What you got?
Sergey says, I'm always hungry for pizza after watching your YouTube.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I'm just hungry in general after doing these.
Yeah.
So here's a funny thing. Here's a funny story. I teach summer classes, and there was a semester where usually in the summer up until last year, I would teach an evening class because I wanted to be home with the boys during the day while you were at work, and then in the summer I would just teach an evening class. There was a summer where, for whatever reason, our class would get on the subject of food, and there was twice where I had to run to Portillo's. Portillo's, if you're in the Chicagoland area, is like the best thing. That class didn't let out until about 10:15, 10:30 at night, and I'm running to Portillo's because we'd been talking about it for 2 hours.
I'm starving.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a number of students who were like, you know what? This is not a good habit I'm into, is eating food at 10 o'clock at night before I'm supposed to be going to bed. I'm like, I think we need to stop talking about food. So, Klaus Aquatics, thank you for the super chat. Is there any fish you are hoping to find at the next swap? Maybe something on your list of fish to get? That's a great question.
Yeah.
There is a fish that I am hoping to get that I think I should have this week, but it is a secret fish, and it's one I've wanted for a long time, and I will reveal it eventually if, in fact, I do get this fish. What's the matter?
It's a little no-see-em.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, there is. Here. I thought it was just you being crazy.
Oh.
There's stuff everywhere. You okay? So, at the swap, though, in particular, something always surprises me at the swap. And there are a couple of tables at the swap where people sell some interesting stuff I didn't know I wanted until I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? I have to have this. So there's always a couple tables like that of things I need. Anything specific? Are you looking for anything? Oh, I know what you're looking for. Because they'll probably have them.
Really?
Go ahead, because it's a weekly thing.
Because it's a weekly thing?
Yeah, you tell people that you want this thing every week, so you might as well not break the streak now.
I'm not going to say that I want green neons or anything.
Okay, so those will probably be there. I'm 95% sure.
I was convoing with Lynn. I think it was Lynn on my videos today, because she was saying, I think she said that she did get them. Flip Aquatics. She said you should check out Flip Aquatics, and I said, well, we were stocking, but I know that he has the option to alert me when they get here. But we were placing an order that we were trying to time, and it just didn't work out. But we got the black neons from him, and they're really awesome. But green neons, yes, they are still on the list, and of course Driftwood, cool rocks, and I don't think I could turn down Heteroidea formosa, the Lee's Killies, if Steve has them.
The one,
because I really love them.
The one fish I think if I saw them there, and sometimes people breed them, and that is the species 44. I'd like to get some of those. The species 44 is a Lake Victorian cichlid, and I've had them in the past. I really like those fish, and when I first set up the fish room, that was one of the fish I'm like, I'm going to breed those just because I love them, and I haven't done it. Every other fish I said I wanted to breed when I set up the fish room, I think I have, except for those. And they're not crazy uncommon, but I'd like to see those. The species 44s are really cool. Is there anything else that I really... I'm always on the lookout for shell dwellers, too. So shell dwellers that I don't currently have. So maybe if someone has some Signatus or, I don't know, something... Lake Tanganyika fish are my weakness. They're like my kryptonite. So if I walk in there and people are breeding Lake Tanganyika fish that I haven't had in a while, that could be bad.
Yeah.
That could be bad for me. So it could be bad for me coming home and be like, all right, where am I going to put these things? I got to find an open tank. So... yeah, it's a good question. Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for the jumping fan. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Peter O'Brien, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, guys, what's your opinion on seltzer oxygenators? Do they help with aquarium water quality? Sterilizer. Seltzer. I don't know where I got that. My eyes are really going. I don't know. I'm seltzer aquarium. It doesn't even make any sense. I was like reading that. I'm like, what the heck does that even mean?
It's like the machine that you can make bubbly with.
Sterilizer oxygenators, do they help with aquarium water quality? Sterilizer. So I've never used that. Sterilizer oxygenators. Peter, I don't know what that is. Can you look that up?
What am I looking up at?
Sterilizer oxygenators. It's not associated with like UV light, is it? I mean, because right now they're putting UV lights and everything. More and more the canister filters I've got an Aquatop hang-on back filter that actually has a UV light in it. So I don't even know if they had that on the market anymore. But I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you. Sterilizer oxygenators.
Ozone versus ultraviolet aquarium sterilizer.
So
algae sterilizing oxygenator.
Wait, so you said ozone or UV?
These are all different kinds. I don't know if they're used for different.
Oh, so ozone is not something I would want in my water. That's for darn sure.
Is that what they're trying to like?
If you've got no, sterilizer oxygenators, I'm assuming you don't want ozone. They use ozone as a disinfectant for drinking water. That is not something you would want in your aquarium. So I don't think. I mean, that could be... I just don't think I would want ozone in my aquarium water. And I don't have any research to back that up. I'm just kind of speaking off the top of my head. In micro, we talk about using ozone for disinfection of drinking water. So, Emily, thank you so much for the super chat. Myself, along with the team at Kentucky Fish and Tank Rescue, are super excited to meet you all at Aquascape Chicago. Love watching your videos. Well, thank you so much. So, are you going to have a booth at Aquascape Chicago, or are you just guys just coming to hang out as a group? So, yeah, definitely can't wait to meet you and stop by, and it'll be cool. Very fun. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see here. PFC Magic. I never knew Neocaridina cherry shrimp would help my hobby pay for itself. And I never knew an orange variant would emerge from the colony. Wow. That happened to us as well. That happens. It's funny how they'll throw, every once in a while, they'll throw different colors. We started, the last fish room tour I did, it's been 6 months. But I showed our super red bristlenose tank, and a lot of times I'll keep my bristlenose and cherry shrimp or Neocaridina together. And that particular tank started as super red bristlenose that were very small and cherry shrimp. Well, when I showed it, I showed that that group has now got cherry shrimp in that tank. There are orange and there are yellow shrimp in the tank. So I don't know what happened there, but I've never added any shrimp since the beginning, and it was just a pure line of cherries. The interesting thing about Neocaridina is normally if you just let them go and you don't cull some of the brown shrimp, a lot of them, they just wind up going brown. I'm finding when it comes to Neocaridina, as much as I love them, I don't really have the desire to cull as much as I should. Yeah. So what I wind up with is I get a really cool variant of Neocaridina, and then over the course of like a year, it's like, remember when we had these cool looking shrimp in here and now they're mostly brown? Because I don't want to go through there and pick them all out and put them in other tanks or do whatever you got to do to get rid of them. What I did do, though, is we took out some of the browns. I threw them in the hyphen variatus tank, and now they're breeding in there. So we got a brown. I call them chocolate Neocaridina, nice. not wild type, and not just undesirables.
They're very rare cocoa shrimp.
Yeah, the cocoa shrimp. Yes, that's what they are. But yeah, that's it. When we have some throwing out some different colors, they're pretty cool.
No, I'd call them smoky quartz topaz. That's what I would call them.
You got that? I didn't know what was coming out of your mouth there for a second. Smoky, wokey, topaz shrimp. Oh, things are jumping on me. So hold on a second here. Daniel says, I have 2 fish that always have stringy poop. Do I need to be concerned? 1 cherry barb and 1 otocinclus. The other fish are good. Possibly. So if they're eating, here's the thing. When it comes to internal parasites, the best thing to do is take care. If you think you have it, take care of it while they're still eating. Because if they ever switch to not eating, it's really hard to treat that stuff. I know you can dump in just endless amounts of general cure, and just put some general cure in there or some metronidazole, and you're dumping all this stuff in your tank for an internal parasite. And in order for that medication to work, it needs to get into the actual organism where the parasite exists in their digestive system. And usually, even at the recommended concentrations, especially with the resistance that's growing with some of these meds, it's not a good prognosis. So if they're eating and you think this is something you might want to treat, most likely the best thing to do is get some medicated flakes with some metronidazole and let them eat that. And that will be far more effective. That would be my suggestion. Let's see here. Scrolling on down. This thing is now skipping on me everywhere. All right, hold on. Because I saw some things I wanted to answer, and then I lost it. Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Our Geophagus altifrons mouth brooders, mine are breeding, and the female is taking the eggs in her mouth after the male fertilizes them. I have not bred them. So some Geophagus do that. Some do it partial. So I'm trying to think of, I've bred Steindachnerai, which were mouth-brooding geophagus. I bred Tapajos, which were egg layers. I don't know what the Ultifrons are doing because like I said, I've just got the one in the 150, and if she's taking them in her mouth, then yes, because they're not generally going to. Some of them are delayed too. That's the other thing, and I think I thought one of those geophagus, if it's not Ultifrons, maybe it was one Millerai. One of them was a delayed mouth brooder where they would lay the eggs, they would lay them on the surface, the male would fertilize them, and then they would take them in their mouth later on. So, yeah, that's the story. Let's see here. Whipswirl, have either of you ever tried, what is that, Bakis? Over on 83 in Bensonville, hands down my favorite Italian beef sausage combo sandwich in northern Illinois.
What?
I haven't tried that.
There's some more fighting words there, buddy.
Dude, you know, the thing is...
Seriously, first it's pizza, and now you're going against Portillo's?
I know. So...
And making us hungry?
The problem in Illinois, especially northern Illinois, is when somebody wants hot dogs, beefs, or Italian sausage, and you know you have a Portillo's down the street,
right?
And that's like the night where you're like, I'm going to eat that particular food.
Yeah. It's
so hard to pass that up and take a chance on something else and be like, well, that was mediocre. I could have had Portillo's, which is my favorite thing ever.
I don't know. That one place, was it Ohio?
That was Pennsylvania.
Was it
It was Pennsylvania, and it was absolutely outstanding. It was the best thing ever.
Italian sausage.
Yeah.
That I had a friend that said you have to go here, and it was just this little hole in the wall.
Do you remember the name of that place? Because that would be more beneficial to people who live in the area. We could be like, oh yeah, it was called this instead of there's a really great place in Pennsylvania somewhere that had the best sausage ever. That's true. Let's see. Finwiggles says, Joanna, what's your favorite tank size for shrimp only?
You know, I've never thought of that before.
Well,
I would have,
now you have.
Right? I would have a really hard time picking because you can, my obsession with water gardens, you can have a very small tank with just a few little shrimp, and it's really awesome. My favorite size tank, well, I don't know. You're going to have to come back. I'm going to have to think about it. Because there's so many options. I mean, even like a little 3 gallon's great, a 5 gallon, but then which 5 gallon, the 7.5 cube that I have. But then I've never had, like a 10 gallon would be really sweet. You could do a really sweet, awesome, scape. I don't even know what I would call it because my water gardens and stuff that I've had little, I had Shrimp Island. I've done the pumpkin shrimp farm for the fall season with the sunset backdrop and the 7.5. So yeah, I don't know. What's your size? What's your favorite size? Help me out.
I still like the 20.
Do you?
Yep. The 20 long, especially, gives you a lot of surface area. Yeah, I mean either one. 20 is good. Shrimp because they'll use the entire space as long as you've got hornwort or guppy grass or java moss. They'll use the entire tank, which is fun. It's fun watching. What's fun about shrimp, especially if you put them like a standard 20, is they might be up by the hornwort and all of a sudden decide, I'm going to go down to the bottom. And they just kind of gracefully swim. And
or
they do like a little zigzag.
Piece of food.
Yeah.
So cute.
They float on the piece of food on the way down. They're like, this is fun, man. This is the greatest time ever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. High Roll Detroit. In your opinion, would a pair of multis work in a Fluval Flex 15? I've seen conflicting answers. A pair would work just fine in a 15 Fluval Flex. The only thing that you have to consider is what happens if they start having fry. You'll probably have to remove more of the fry. Obviously, you're going to have to remove it more often than if you had it in, let's say, a 20 long or a 40 breeder or something like that. But a single pair in a 15, I don't see why that's going to, especially you're talking about 2 little tiny fish in a 15 gallon. I know there's not a lot of surface area, at the bottom for them, but it's only a pair. So it would work for a while. Then you got to just keep moving the fry. Amir, thank you so much for the super chat. I recently saw that my Similis, Neolamprologus similis, have spawned. How long does it take for the Similis to grow to be juveniles? Any tips for raising them? So Similis and Maltese, it's funny, you get the Maltese question and the Similis follows. They're very similar fish. They're just a little bit different in terms of their color, a little bit different in terms of their behavior. So tips for raising them, I highly recommend live baby brine shrimp. We feed it to our shell dwellers in the morning and at night, just because you never know. For those probably the first week or so, there can be fry around the shell, and they're really small, and you might not even know they are there. Plus, the adults love the live baby brine. They'll go crazy. They'll just start attacking it like it. It must be rather. It's probably akin to us maybe eating a nerd. I mean, when you think about the size of their bodies compared to the live baby brine, it'd be like us just floating around the air eating little baby nerds. I mean the candy, not nerd, not fish nerds, candy. Right? So, but they do.
Sorry,
want to clarify, yeah. So, but they do love it. That's what I would do. How long does it take for them to become juveniles? They're not exactly fast growers, so you're gonna need a little bit of patience, maybe a couple months. So, but they're awesome. Very cool fish.
Now everybody's talking about Portillos.
Portillos it's the stuff.
I'm hungry. Finwiggle says, Joanna, I'm thinking about a 6-gallon cube for my pumpkin herd.
Ooh.
See,
that'll be cool.
That's a size, Finn, that I don't have. And every time that I go to the Petco, you wouldn't know this because I go way more than you. I go like every other day. I see it. I see the cube tanks.
You go with a Petco every other day?
Sometimes.
Got some problems, girl.
They're good problems to have. And when you need dog food, good thing I'm going.
Guess you could be going to worse places every other day. So, all right.
Like, hey, gang.
Let's see here. Aman, what's better, Amaloc or Prime for a 10-gallon with 2 to 4 parts per million ammonia? So, it's interesting because I didn't fully complete my thought when somebody else was asking. I don't remember who was asking the question about the ammonia. They were having the ammonia spike. And maybe, I don't think that was your question, but originally earlier on, both of them are okay. And when you're in an emergency situation like 2 to 4 parts per million ammonia, you do want to bring that stuff down, but also know that if it's working really well, that it's going to prolong that issue, because what's going to happen is I've got ammonia, there's something there for my microbes to eat, I've gotten rid of it, now they're fighting for food. Now there's ammonia, now there's not, and so you're going to get these fluctuations going on that can make it a little bit harder to cycle. The other thing that you can do when you have ammonia spikes is, and this is a longer term thing, probably more beneficial when you're starting up a tank as opposed to dealing with it after the fact, is adding live plants. That can certainly help. Adding live plants and then stocking very, very lightly along with the Fritzyme 7 and or the used filter media. And pretty much, I can't remember the last time we had an ammonia spike when setting up a new tank. Even so, to give you an idea, the 20 long that you set up, that you just did the video on last week, and then the video that you did today, that tank had the Quiet Flow 30, which was a brand new filter, so there wasn't any microbes actually coating the inside part of the filter, but we used filter media that came from another tank and a bunch of Fritzyme 7. And that tank, that was one where I was like, you know what, we probably went a little heavy on the stocking. Hopefully this thing works out and we don't get an ammonia issue. We had the Jungle Val in there, and so far so good. So that was the combination. But if you get something like a hornwort or a guppy grass, something that grows pretty quick, that can help.
Yeah.
What you got?
Finn said that's the one she's looking at too. The Petco one. The rimless.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the rimless. Yeah, we're both looking at the same one.
Yep.
You know what I would do? That's what I would do. I would get one of those tall, like bistro tables. It's not a dining room table, but it's a taller, like counter height, like a smaller one. You know what, the 2 chairs or 4 chairs, whatever. Screw the chairs. Put the tank in the middle of the table. A cube tank right in the middle of like a table. It would be just great.
Why can't you have the chairs?
Literally like walk. I mean, you could, but I just want to be able to walk around the tank, all the time.
A better idea is to do what you said, but then have chairs with wheels, so you don't even have to stand up. You can just sit around and you can orbit the tank. Huh? You can be a planetary body around the tank. Just orbit the whole thing. If you want to, and if you want to work out, forget the 6 gallon. Go 600 gallons, and then it'll take a long time to make a single orbit.
That's a big bad boy.
Big
of a cylinder tank. One of these days, I really, really want a cylinder tank.
Yep, someday. But that day is not today. Whips World, thank you for the super chat. I like Portillo's. They're super consistent no matter where you go. But I give the mom and pop shops my business when I can. But that Portillo's cake, the cake, oh, I know, man. The Portillo's chocolate cake, the chocolate with chocolate. Oh.
But Cheryl said that her Portillo's has been out of the cake for a while. No cake shake.
Oh, no cake shake. I'm a weird person. I don't do the cake. I can do the chocolate shake, just a regular one.
I would do the malted.
I can't do the regular one.
I really wanted to deal with dairy, so I was like, all right, I'm doing it.
I'll deal with dairy. Wolfton Aquatics. Will simless shell dwellers jump out of a tank that is only 9 inches high and has no lid? Yes, they will. All shell dwellers will jump. I know this from personal experience. Every once in a while. So in the 50-gallon low boy, there is a space. I've got the polycarbonate that's covering pretty much the entire part of that tank, except for maybe 1.5 inches on one side, because the piece I had just wasn't long enough, and I never got another piece to cover that little part. And I should, because every once in a while, I'll see a multi laying on the ground. I'm like, oh, dang it. Now, when you've got 300 of them in there, it's like, okay, well, I lost a multi. Not cool. I need to do something about it. But if I had a breeding group in a 20 and I'm depending on them to breed and give me stuff, I would absolutely 100% cover that tank, because they will find even little spots to somehow jump. Because what winds up happening is, if you ever really watch the shell dwellers, whether it's Simulus or Maltese or anybody else, they can get a little animated. And sometimes the males especially, like, you go over there, I'm going over here. And they move really fast. And yeah, they are very prone to being like, I'm free. I'm jumping out of the water. You can't get me out here. And then they boom, like, wait a minute, man, I landed on a place that's got no water anymore. Yeah, so definitely cover those shell dweller tanks. So funny.
Gideon said, after hearing part of an answer, I'm on my way to get some nerds for my fish. You have nerds to your fish?
So I put all the nerds in the tank, and it turned to various shades of red and yellow and purple.
Although, I do have to say that a lot of people, I don't know if they're still doing this, but they do like Skittles tanks with like different color shrimp in the tank. But why do you call them Skittles tank? I would call it a nerds tank, because nerds are tiny candies and shrimp are tiny.
And you know what I just noticed? And I'm kind of disappointed, because I thought nobody got my movie quote.
Oh, no.
Single serving friend.
No, that's good.
You are by far the most
horrible movie.
You are by far the most interesting single serving friend I've ever met.
No. Horrible movie.
You've got a kind of desperation in your laugh.
Mm-hmm.
How's that working for you? Being clever. Pretty good. Then I say keep up with it.
Okay.
All right. I can keep going with that quotes, but then they get more obvious, and it's like, all right. So anyway, Pixel Bat. That's pretty cool. Pixel Bat. What would be the best? I like that.
That would be a cool logo.
Pixel Bat. What would be the best community fish to control platy fry? I have a 4-inch 3-spot Gourami. That should do it, but he doesn't really seem interested in eating them. Stop feeding them.
Wow.
No, don't do that, because then the rest of your fish will be like, hey, I
where's
can't
my tail?
Yeah. I'm surprised that he hasn't decided, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of hungry. So if that's not working, it depends on the size of the tank, but a lot of the smaller cichlids, like the Bolivian Ram, I know I keep going back to the Rams because I don't know the size of the tank. Rams, Apistos, Cribs, Curviceps, keyhole cichlids, they stay on the smaller side. They aren't very aggressive. They're not going to attack for the most part, I don't think they will attack your larger platies and cause problems there. But all of them are usually pretty opportunistic. I'm trying to think of anything else on the community side. I don't, without knowing the size of the tank, all of those that I mentioned can at least go in a 20-gallon, and usually do a pretty decent job of saying, yep, gonna go ahead and deal with this little tiny fish. Looks pretty delicious.
Carol said, now you're talking, orbit the tank.
Orbit the tank. Or, I guess if you got really lazy, you could put the tank on one of those spinning tables.
That goes like real slow.
Yeah, and then you could just sit there, and then you wouldn't even have to orbit the tank. We can just get... So we started out, if you remember, hold on, we started out pretty ambitious with a little tank, and then we were going to walk around it, and then we realized you can get a larger tank and you spin with the chair, but then if you don't even want to like have to kick the chair in a circle because you might, maybe you're injury prone or something, you're like, I'm going to knock myself over, then get the orbiting tank, and you don't have to do anything but just sit there.
But wait, what happens if it turns out
to
be like the beta in the cup? And nothing ever moves, including the hardscaping. It actually moves. The tank moves, but nothing else moves.
That may be one of the most
mystery.
Annoying things when it comes to fish keeping. You go to the store.
You want to see? Hey, let me see
That's
you, little
kind of funny you mention that. Yeah, and you look at trying to find the betta, and you just keep turning the cup, and the betta is just staying over there like, ha ha ha, you're not going to be able to see me. So then you find yourself doing one of these. You're like, I'm going to just sneak it over to the other. You pick it up, I'm going to sneak it over here, and it still winds up on the other side. It's like, you're not going to look at me. You're just not going to do it until you buy me. Yeah, the betta cup at the pet store is one of those mysteries with a twistery. That's really annoying.
M&C Aquatics says, too bad you're so far away. I'd give Joanna a 45-gallon cylinder tank.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, that'd be dreamy.
Probably a good thing,
imagine? Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
We have to be sitting in the middle of our living room.
Don't care.
Yeah. Let's see here. Rogue Sparky. I like these usernames. Or usernames? Yeah, I guess that's a username, right? Rogue Sparky. I just started a top fin 37-gallon planted and unheated, looking for a centerpiece fish. Any suggestions? Oh, yeah. 37-gallon unheated.
A shrimp.
No. Yeah. Centerpiece shrimp. You will never see it. Paradise fish. Albino. Albino paradise fish. Get an albino male paradise fish in a 37 unheated. That, to me, would be the way to go. Let's see here. Mick Boosted. It seems everyone has a different idea of what's considered an overstocked tank when trying to determine the stocking levels of your tanks. What things do you consider? That's a great question. I consider ideally the number one thing to consider is what are the fish lives going to look like, right? How are they going to behave in that setup? Is it going to be somewhat natural? Are they going to be stressed and cramped? That is the number one thing. And unfortunately, that just takes some time. I can tell you that I've messed that up at times. And the 150, if you go back even not this past January with the one before it, the mistake that I made in my 150 is it was overstocked. I had at that time 2 tinfoil barbs, a ballast shark, which I'd had since they were, a couple inches. I had a couple severums, the geophagus, the frontosa was in there. And the problem is the tinfoil barbs and the ballast shark were far too active for everybody else that was in there. And I think there was even the veil tail angel was in there. Were too active. And I did not like that overstocked tank. I didn't feel like any of the fish were really acting normally. The problem with that tank, and the reason why I didn't move those, they eventually died, the tinfoil barbs and the ballast shark all died within a few days of each other because we did a water change. And I think something wound up in the water after a very large rain event, and it wiped out those fish. It wiped out some of the fish on your wall, and a fair number of bristlenose plecos on the other side of the fish room. And it was weird. It impacted certain tanks, and the rest of them were okay. But anyway, when it comes to overstocking, there are certain tanks that you really kind of have to overstock in order to make them work. So a lot of the Mbuna cichlids, I would say, is definitely something you would want to do. The peacock male only type tanks are definitely something that you probably have to overstock just to keep the aggression levels down. When it gets to community fish, I am leaning more and more towards not trying to make the tanks to the point where, oh, you know what? You've got this thing going on where the fish are really cramped and they're having a hard time swimming around and moving. So it's not an easy question. It's one of those things where you'll know it when you see it, and you'll know it when you see how the fish are interacting with one another. But the big thing for me is a lot of the African cichlids you have to overstock. Beyond that, maybe not. Let's see here. J-Dub, I love when you do fish voices. Thank you very much. I try to channel my inner fish.
A lot of Fight Club. Everybody guessed it.
Oh, wait. Oh.
Yeah.
All right,
they
good.
They all got it.
Well, no, MSC Aquatics said Right Club.
Oh,
He corrected himself.
that's probably a better movie than Fight Club.
Right. Hey,
Sorry.
it's a classic.
It's gross.
Right? Number of people. I think it's just one of those things.
It's not half
There's some
as-
parts in there I wish weren't there, but they could make it a good movie.
A very similar movie, if you wanted a little cleaner, more relaxing than Fight Club, I would try something like White Christmas.
I was gonna say, what movie is similar to Fight Club?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Coventry Doherty Wooden. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you both so much for all you do. As a newbie, y'all are my go-to. Tonight is especially special. I like that. Especially special. Our 13-year-old German Shepherd is getting ready to cross to the Rainbow Bridge. Thanks for providing a sense of normalcy. I'm so sorry. That
13-year-old.
That's tough, man. We are dog people, and
Yeah.
we've had a number of dogs in our lifetime, and
Yeah.
man, I'm sorry that's how you're having to deal with that. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's when you've had a dog and you connect with the dog, and it's a family member.
Yep.
For sure. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you're having to deal with that right now, but I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here. So yeah. Let's see here. Ray Cooper, Venom movie clip?
Oh.
I don't think I've even seen Venom, amazingly
No.
enough. No.
Fishy Biz is here.
Fishy Biz.
Cracking, Jason.
Fishy Biz. So
Fishy Biz.
we're going to be doing a live stream together pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it, as long as we're still on
Cool.
schedule, on Monday the 5th at, I think it's 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun. Going to be a good time. All right, let's see here. Well, oh my gosh. We'll do a couple more questions, and then we'll call it a night, because time just kind of gets away when we're having a little party of fun here. Let's see here. Shannon says, can you help me remove fog from a new tank? Yes, I can help you with that. Funny side story. When my kids were little, especially Eli, well, he's going to be 14 now, but when he was a little guy, he used to ask me, he's like, Dad, what is fog? I'm like, I make up some story, and I tell him, hey, you want to go fog chasing? And he thought that the fog was actually running away, because you'd come up on the fog, and all of a sudden, you know how fog is, you get into it, and it always seems like it's further on down the road. So we'd go driving around when it was foggy, fog chasing. Kept him busy. Mm-hmm. Poor kid, he thought that you could actually chase fog. And the other thing I told him is that he used to ask me where the trains were going. And I don't know, one day I just said, they're going to Mexico. And he literally thought for a significant portion of his life that when you saw a train, that's where it was going. It was going to Mexico. Big freight trains. They're all going to Mexico. It kept him from asking me questions about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then he actually, I think he was with his grandparents, your parents, and they saw a train. And he's like, yeah, that train's going to Mexico. I'm like, well, how do you know that? That's where they all go. I'm like, huh? So I got a talking to. Why are you telling your kid all these crazy things? I don't know why.
They all head south.
That's right.
Right?
Let's see here. Ian says, why do plants hate my tank? Some plants just hate tanks, man.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing. Parameters are good. Phosphate, 0. GH, 107 parts per million. KH is 35. What's the potential missing bit of info?
Temperature?
Yeah, temperature. So let's assume if you're going crazy, I mean, once you start getting into the low to mid 80s, a lot of plants don't do well there. Lower temperatures aren't generally a problem. Light is something to consider. So what kind of light do you have? How deep is the tank? So there's a big difference between, let's say, a 20 long and a 65 breeder, right? Where the 65s are like the 40 breeder, just way taller. That can create some issues in terms of getting light to the bottom of the tank. Water flow. So interesting thing, and not a lot of people tend to think about this, but especially when it comes to crypts, it just seems like this is an issue on your nano wall. Sometimes some of those filters, they start running not as optimally as they should. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, we can always tell within about 5 or 6 days if one of those internal filters that you're running on one of the kit tanks isn't pushing out enough water. The crypts start to melt back a little bit, and then we get that fixed, and they all repair themselves like, oh, thanks, I needed a little bit of water flow. That'll happen to jungle valve in my experience as well.
Yeah.
There are certain plants that grow really fast, like hornwort and guppy grass, where if you are not supplying them liquid fertilizers, they will suck out all of the nutrients in that tank, and then boom, they die just as fast as they grow. Some plants, like Anubias, if the light is too strong and they're directly under that light, you'll see them start to what is known as kind of like burn. Right? That's something that you fight in some of the smaller tanks when you get Anubias that are a little bit larger and they start growing out of the water and they get really close to that light. That can be an issue. But yeah, just generally speaking, you want to check your nitrates, make sure that they've got some. I mean, again, for us, we always try to keep our nitrates at 20 parts per million or less. But we have planted tanks. I'm fine with even 20 to 30 in those tanks just to make sure that they have the nutrients that they need. Yeah, they do need some calcium. They do need, that's the other thing too, is a lot of people, when they put plants in their tank and they're like, oh, you know what, my nitrates always stay at 5 parts per million, and they never do a water change, thinking, okay, the plants are happy, everything's balanced. That's not necessarily true, because they can be consuming the calcium in the water. They can be consuming some of the micros, and then if you don't add that back in, they have problems growing. So there could be a lot of reasons, but you're doing the right things by starting with your KH is somewhat low. I mean, that's only 2 degrees, so that could be, they could be consuming that. I'd be interested to know what so if that's the KH in your tank or right out of the tap, because I wonder if it's different from the tap to the tank after a while. So those are all some things to consider.
J804, hello everyone, new aquarium owner here.
Cool.
Good luck.
Welcome.
I
Welcome
bought
to the group.
my first ever tank starter kit last weekend. We'll be testing water and cycling for the next couple weeks. Very excited.
Very
Welcome.
cool. Welcome.
Congrats.
So if you didn't hear what I said earlier about cycling a tank, it's one of the most important things on the face of the earth when it comes to fish keeping. So easiest ways to do that is using cycled media from another tank, which is not necessarily something you'd have. Get yourself some live nitrifying bacteria. Fritzzyme 7 would be an example. You put that in your tank, and then you can add maybe, like, let's just say a fish to start with, just to make sure that the bioload is appropriate for the number of microbes in the tank, and be very slow about adding fish. The other thing is, I know you just spent money on this tank. A really good practice, this is one of the most important things, is when you add new fish, quarantine them. Go to Petco. Sometimes at the $1 per gallon sale, you spend $10 on a 10-gallon tank. It doesn't have to be pretty. Used filter media, cycled filter media in that tank. Maybe you've got a really cheap light and a sponge filter. Maybe you put substrate in, maybe you don't. A couple of maybe weighted plastic plants just to give the fish a little bit of security and something to kind of hide behind. And quarantine your fish. New fish should be quarantined. We quarantine ours for 4 weeks. I know it seems like a long time. I was like, oh my gosh, you mean a month before I can put it in a regular tank? Yes, because it sometimes can take a few weeks for fish to show disease when you get them. But if you can deal with the nitrogen cycle by adding something that's got live nitrifying bacteria, and you can deal with quarantining and having patience, you are going to save yourself so much potential issues later on.
Yeah, it's Turbo Star too.
Yep. Michelle, thank you so much for the sticker. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's see here. I think we are going to call it a night because it's getting late, and now I want Portillo's, and they're open later than that pizza place, FYI.
Yeah, I know.
So,
pizza places close early these days.
They sure do.
Really weird.
So anyway, thank you so much, Finn Wiggles and Clint, for holding down the fort and being here. Thank you for all the super chats and stickers and for the great questions. You guys asked a lot of good questions tonight, so that's always fun when we have a lot of people. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. I'm sorry. I don't ever intentionally ignore anybody, so we just try to spread out the question asking stuff as best we can.
Yeah.
But thank you. Really appreciate it. And then we will be here next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hope to see you there. Have a great week and a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.